Good afternoon, Smite fans. Welcome to the Smite Pro League. I'm Tom. That's Taco. This is North America. Had a fantastic first 2 days of the week. How you doing?
It's been a pretty busy one, to say the least, but I mean, I'm really excited. Definitely looking forward to some of the North American SPL matches we've got going here today.
Yeah, really excited. We got Space Station Gaming taking on Weekend and the Boys, and then later on, we're going to see Trifecta versus Splice, and I think this is the first time that we're going to see Splice back at home. They're away from the beach house, so we were talking a lot during the summer split about how much of an impact having the guys local and being able to be with each other. In case you missed it, 6 members, the 5 players plus the coach, we're all at Kabombs, and now they're not. So it should be an interesting look to see how Trifecta's doing. I mentioned it's the summertime, nice and hot out here, especially down in Atlanta. This is what we're looking at all throughout the weeks.
And of course, as you guys are already aware of, we've got the pretty standard schedule day by day. You're going to be expecting to see some of your European SPL on that Tuesday, Thursday slot, also on Monday. And keep in mind, Esports Weekly is the very first thing we really enjoy starting our weeks off with, and funneling into the SPL, and we also have our console league occurring at times. Just make sure that you tune in because, I mean, there's Smite action every single day of the week.
Hey, how do your predictions go on Esports Weekly?
Not too hot, honestly. I mean, I think everybody's FP got blown away, though, between Mouse and Dignitas, and I can't say I'm upset about it.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's it's funny because people always, I do a lot of prediction videos and stuff on YouTube, and everybody goes and they're like, you were wrong. And as a sports commentator, as a competition commentator, if we're wrong, that means the experts are wrong, which means something went crazy. So that's kind of what I root for. So fun stuff there abound. Next week, I'm actually going to be stepping in for aggro. I'm definitely not going to do as good of a job as that man does, but we'll see what we can do. Either way, I'm going to make fun of Finch. So we'll handle it.
I guess that's the only thing. I mean, you guys have gotten used to that little segment between your personal. I don't even know what to call this. Like, I would say it's a battle, but to both of you, it's just one-sided. You're right and the other's wrong.
Always, no matter what. No matter what. Right now, United's certainly right. Luminossity's certainly wrong. LG going to be trying to turn that around as they take on Space Station Gaming. Even if they do win, though, we still see LG down at the bottom. It's going to be a little bit tough.
Here's the big thing, though, is that Luminosity had the potential to play a little bit of that spoiler effect. I believe if Space Station end up dropping this set, that could potentially interfere with their ability to come to land. You never really know what can happen. I mean, the next behind them is sitting at 3 points, but still, 3, if you stay at 5, might turn into 4, and then that might turn into 5, and then suddenly you're in a position you don't want to be in if you're Space Station.
And Weekend is always one to play spoiler. Yeah, definitely wants to ruin some dreams, so that'd be a little bit fun to watch that go down. Space Station Gaming, though, will be the opposition for these 5 teammates, and keegsmate has been really, really, really big here. The middle lane I've really enjoyed, but of course the mid lane only works if the jungle is on all cylinders. And sorry, folks, I'm talking about him again, but there's reason. Weekend has been playing really well in Season 5.
But things have still been shaky as a whole for Luminosity, and I think that they almost always perform best whenever they're relying mostly on Clout. I think that Clout has definitely stepped it up without a doubt in my mind this season, and he has been playing some of the best Hunter potential that we've really seen. It's just that even with the dual lane winning, you still need that to translate elsewhere across the map. And for Luminosity, they tend to struggle a little bit with that. And I want to see a little bit less experimentation out of Kiki, because I'm sure that everything they've been trying is something that's worked before in a scrim. You don't just see teams doing something because they feel like it, and not in the SPL at least. And I just think that maybe a little bit less weird, a little bit more towards the conventional, and that could go a long way for Luminosity.
Yeah, you know, if you out-weird me, you've done something interesting. I'm not buying the Discordia solo. At the end of the day, something I do want to say is that, like, you know, understanding what you're good at is very important. And Kiki is good at the weird stuff, right? But just also bring me Odin instead of Discordia, please. Please. That's really what I wish for when I take a look at this squad, because honestly, even when he's playing the weird things, LG seems to play well, just not well enough to find the victory.
It's inconsistent even throughout the match. I mean, it's not exactly unknown that they can be inconsistent throughout a set, but you have to be able to close out a game if you want to worry about finalizing a clean 2-0 victory, or even coming out 2-1 on top. I don't think that we've seen everything that we are expecting to out of Luminosity. I think the summer split was a little bit more shaky for them, if anything, in comparison to the spring.
Yeah.
But that could also just be a result of the teams in general getting better. Improvements are bound to happen as the league continues, and all those things considered, I feel as though Luminosity is still a team that has a lot of potential for the fall.
Yeah, I think you nailed it, is that a lot of the teams surrounding them have just gotten better. We look at the rise of Splice and Trifecta, and even Spacestation Gaming themselves, who started off pretty strong in the spring split and had a disappointing is the word I'll use for their land performance. And then coming to the summer split, I think we've really, I'm not sure if Baskin quite had that magic that he had in the spring split, but I've seen everybody else kind of elevate. And my biggest focus has been andinster in the jungle. Not all the time positive. This guy has been very, very spotty with characters like Mercury and things. I mean, he's been a big part of why Space Station is at that number 2 spot and looking better than they used to.
North America in general was fairly adamant about a certain pick composition for a while. I think that was a large part of the reason why the land didn't go as expected.
Yeah.
I don't really fault Space Station, though, for trying to stay true to their guns. It's just one comparison of a meta to the other, and unfortunately for NA, theirs just wasn't the superior one in comparison to EU.
Got it wrong.
But after that land, though, is what's important, because I remember specifically BaRRaCCuDDa just saying, we're going to go hard body change on all of this stuff. EU United's probably going to follow suit. That, in turn, will eventually bleed over into the other teams from North America. I think we have seen quite a lot of that. We've seen some of the double Guardian compositions happening, but a lot of emphasis towards those magical mid lanes once more. Yeah,
nice return to form. Very happy to see that, quite personally. Picks and bans, Space Station Gaming versus LG. Worth noting, Chernobog is back in the building. He is able to be picked. I don't know why I said back. It was his first week. He was never here. But now he is, and he's here with a vengeance. You catch, I mean, obviously you did. You work here. Those games that Chernobog played in.
He hasn't had a lot of success, though, which is a bit surprising, but also not when you think about the fact that Chernobog teams are always going to want to experiment with a god that has a global ultimate that can immediately throw you into the fight. Compositions, I don't think, have really been solidified in terms of what complements Chernobog best. And now, that's the big key. Whoever can figure it out first, probably going to end up being in a really nice spot. That is, if he ever gets through, because Space Station is more than aware of how potent he can be.
Yeah, the problem is you don't have a team fight ultimate with that ultimate that he does have, so it can be sort of wonky around the edges, like you said, building the composition around him, because you got to realize what you're giving up. And I always go deep into the equation of your draft. So Chernobog kind of throws things off. Thoth, though, pretty widely considered to be new. And we had a conversation earlier at lunch that the casters did, and it was funny because we were sitting there going, you know, Thoth, I don't really know if he's like first pick, first bannable, unless you're against Baskin or Zeros. Then you kind of got to take that one away. Longer conversation, but LG certainly subscribes to that thought process, and they don't want to give him Thoth.
I love this preference that they're picking or prioritizing Keeg's gods for the mid lane. Thoth is so very strong in terms of the range damage. I think that's going to be important for Luminosity to try and play around, because a big issue some teams tend to encounter when going up against Space Station is that they just don't really know how to get up close and personal with the squad. Their team fight is incredibly strong. That's what you'd expect when this team has had so much time to develop their synergy and previously established synergy also. That always comes back into effect, and I think that this is the right direction that Luminosity should continue to play off of. I love the spacing control that they're going to have between the Cerberus and the Athena. I think that the Thoth will complement those greatly because he has the range to follow up and not really endanger himself in the process.
Well, Thoth can go in the hands of Keegs, and then the Athena, one of Geno's go-to selections, also going to make its way over to the guys on Luminosity. Paired up with the Cerberus, we'll likely see that in the solo lane, but we'll keep our eyes open. Sylvanus, Artemis, and Serqet here, selected for Space Station Gaming. Sylvanus and the Artemis, I mean, this is, giving up the Athena can be tough, but the Sylvanus, you have just wrestled control of this lane already.
What I'm looking at, though, is Space Station's bans entirely focusing out Clout. All they care about is making sure that Luminosity's Hunter does not get a matchup that's going to be very favorable into the Artemis. There is some potential for a Chiron selection, I think, to occur here. I also feel as though Uller might be avoided because that CC immune ult will probably get targeted pretty heavily if they try to go for the Uller. You can't really tell all the time, though, but it seems as if Neith is going to be that choice for Lumi.
Neith is an interesting selection. I don't mind Neith here because long range or global range, right? A lot of times we'll see LG use that Neith ultimate sort of just in the back line looking for a stun to allow the initiation come out. The Neith Achilles combo I'm a really big fan of. If you ever heard me speak, I love Neith in combination with executes like Ao Kwang, and I include Hebo in the execute conversation because you're able to, the characters are usually generally have a harder time chasing down their target, and Neith assists them there.
Achilles was definitely a smart pickup choice also because they needed some more consistent damage to be spread throughout engagements. Can't just play off of a range entirely with the Thoth and Neith. She can struggle a little bit, as we're well aware, once it hits later than the mid-game stage.
Sure.
If this goes late, I do have some concerns for Luminosity, but the Thoth and Achilles should make up for it.
Love the fact that Neith also comes in tow with her own attack speed debuff. Not many of those in the game. Being able to slow down Artemis attack speed, I'm down. I think that's always a nice look.
It usually is, but keep in mind, Artemis's attack speed stim is well above the average.
70%.
It's pretty intense, and that's not an easy one to overcome. All that aside, though, Space Station with the triple sustain composition, if Luminosity can shut this down early and close this one before the 30-minute mark, I think, then they'll be in a really good spot, but it's going to be rough.
SSG, LG, ready, set, go.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Taco. Finch and aggro here as we move into Game 1 between Space Station and LG. And the first thing that comes to mind, that's a lot of healers that Space Station have at their disposal.
I mean, the Chang'e was first banned. They banned the Aphrodite in the second phase, and SSG still gets 3 healers on their side.
Sylvanus, they got a lot going on for them.
They've got a lot going on, is right. So I wonder how LG is going to be able to prioritize that anti-heal. Thoth can apply it well. Achilles can as well. Even Neith can kind of build into Brawler's Beatstick if she wants to avoid the traditional ADC build. But Vedium, what used to be known as Vedium, now Clout, has been a Neith main for times during his career, and he always liked to go the traditional build on Neith, so I'm interested to see if he's going to do that again.
Who do you all think is going to win in Mixer Chat? Go ahead and vote for us now in the poll. You like this Space Station draft with all this sustain, or do you think LG can maybe overcome it? It's a lot they're going to have to try and build around. They do have the Cerberus already, though, to try and give them some help there.
Yep.
They've got a lot of good late-game potential. Neith, but they have the Thoth there. They've got Cerberus, Achilles. Those are a lot of good tools.
Sure, but like I said, Clout historically has gone for the Devourer's Gauntlets, the crit sometimes,
Sure.
or the XE Chin sort of build with Neith, and then that late game doesn't really hurt that badly for her. You can still utilize those Hunter auto attacks while still getting use out of your early game abilities on the Neith. Plus, with the changes that she got, that increase in base attack speed helps her out in that regard. So it won't be quite as bad for him if he does decide to go for one of those builds.
And if Clout can play well, that's such a boon for Luminosity because you're able to get the Achilles, Thoth, Athena, Cerberus because Space Station banned like 12 hunters or something absurd like that.
Right.
Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but the way that you punish them banning out the hunters that much is you draft this many priority picks, and then you can even make the low priority pick that you get work for you.
Exactly.
That's what LG have to be able to do.
And I think that this is the right sort of pick for them in response to those 4 Hunter bans. And a little bit surprised that it's Cerberus in the solo lane, but that anti-heal capability from his passive does still come into play against Sylvanus, of course. And this gives Kiki an easy interrupt on the Talu Assault with that taunt. So I like that this is the way that LG decided to structure their picks. It doesn't seem particularly traditional at first, but I think this is ultimately better.
But Geno's got to make sure that he's getting value out of this blink. He's elected to go with this very early as opposed to like the sprint, maybe a shell, Mad, any of these other options, trying to make them safe. Sylvanus and Artemis, I mean, they're going to have some pressure. So obviously is Neith Cerberus. That's pretty good clear too. But I mean, if they can land like some early roots, get some nice lucky crits off from this Artemis early, there's not as much safety from this dual lane of Luminosity as Andy already takes a ton of poke. Weekend going to keep going in aggressive.
One more auto will do it, but the speed buff is good enough for andinster to get himself away. Pretty risky for him to jump in and use Deathbane all at once, but doesn't get punished too heavily.
Well, now we're seeing a potential offensive reason why Sprint might even have been good. A chance to maybe go in on JeffHindla there, but instead with the blink. There was a full mini wave. Might not be easy walking into that even against a Sylvanus. But again, some of the options a little bit limited. Now Geno is going in aggressive. Blink right into the Ghastly Breath, but everything misses. And now the trap comes out. Geno gets pulled back in. BaRRaCCuDDa, first blood for Space Station Gaming.
We don't feel good about that if you're a Luminosity fan. Geno blinks forward, and it's the right idea. He's just a little short on the blink. Didn't get the Ghastly Breath on to JeffHindla. A great trap from BaRRA as well.
Really
sets up that kill really, really easily. And that's the difference between your Pro League Artemis players and your casual Artemis players. Getting those traps without any sort of setup makes that character feel insanely difficult to play against.
Yeah, I hear Mixer chat all the time like, why even level trap? Well, I mean, you're kind of seeing why. It's pretty darn good when you're able to get that landed. It can be in jungle pass, cause problems, but KikiSoCheeky could be in some problems of his own. Is able to make it back to the tower line, though, and will be just okay.
No taunt available for andinster in that spot, but this is good pressure onto Kiki right before the blue buff spawns. But with andinster still being a little bit low from that little skirmish with Weekend earlier on, no invade quite yet from the Space Station jungler.
And I know I've kind of been sitting on the blink a little bit here, but to be fair to Geno, I don't think blink sprint changes that scenario very much. Like, obviously he can't blink in, but the real problem there is that he gets trapped.
Sure.
And sprint doesn't really get you out of that.
But he never gets in that spot
That's
without the blink.
That's
I think
fair.
is probably the counterpoint there. Either way, it just the relic choice wasn't the problem. It was the execution of
I think so, for sure.
getting close to JeffHindla, but not close enough to ghastly breath him, then taking minion aggro and allowing BaRRaCCuDDa to trap you in that spot is the real issue there.
Plus, BaRRaCCuDDa has one of the best skins in the game. It's hard to beat
it's
that.
so good, isn't
it sick? Yeah, love this skin. So good.
I think that Artemis got more play because this skin was cool, and then everyone realized she was really good.
Such a good win. I mean, like, she's got the cape going. I love her 3 in this skin. Pew! Look at that!
Yeah, that's really cool. Buy gems.
I'm genuinely enjoying this skin.
No, so am I. Also, buy gems.
That's fair. Yeah, I can support that.
There's a gem sale coming up. Did you know that?
I think it's in effect already.
Is it really?
I think so.
Because Loki's leaving the game on July 4th.
Thank goodness.
Freedom Day for all of us.
Yeah, go play Arena now. You can have fun in there.
Or any mode, for that matter.
Well, isn't that where all the like super serious Diamond Lokis go? They go to Arena for free
Yeah,
kills,
I guess you're right, but I don't know. I know some Conquest Loki mains.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
That's a rough life.
Oh, yeah. I know. I feel bad for them. I do.
Kiki, stopping
Someone
the
hurt
back
them.
of Aquarius there. No, obviously, yes. It's a cry for help. We should go find those Loki mains and, like, hug them or something.
Didn't it feel really good to see Loki lose the round 1 vote of the tier 5 bracket?
It felt so good. I thought for sure he was going to win.
I was really worried about it, but it feels really, really good to know that our community still has their head in the right spot. Way to go, Smite community.
Geno looking for the stun. Can't find it. JeffHindla is going to be A-OK. Both level 5 here for the Artemis and the Sylvanus. A little bit ahead of LG, but unable to really capitalize on it. Neith has that ultimate. Not as big of a game changer in lane, maybe as like the boar is for Artemis, but can certainly mean that there's some opportunities elsewhere for LG if they want to play around that World Weaver.
And there is so much CC on Luminosity's side that it's forced andinster to go away from the level 1 blink, instead going for the much safer option in the early purification beads, but that doesn't mean that he isn't susceptible to that World Weaver ultimate. As soon as you hit level 5 on Neith, you're basically telling your team, all right guys, where are we killing? Because I want to start getting the ball rolling right away. Don't want to delay too long with that World Weaver, because even though I think Clout will go for a little bit more traditional of the build, as I talked about during the go into game, it's still, you want to take advantage of Neith's strengths in the early game, which is abusing that ultimate in the laning phase.
And they've got some options. I mean, as safe as Ra is, he can't jump, he can't dash, he does get that extra movement speed, but Defender of Olympus from Kiki, the World Weaver from Clout, and Geno or Keegs landing a nice stun, even Weekend, and they have a legit opportunity to try and punish Baskin here early if they can find it. He is a little bit ahead of Keegs, though, already level 7 and having a great game for himself, but certainly the opportunity's there.
Baskin used the snipe to try and kill Keegs or force him back, and did the latter. Forced Keegs back to base, but that was with Restored Artifact in hand, so that's when Keegs wanted it back anyway. It's not a big deal for Luminosity's mid laner.
I don't think Baskin has a ladder.
Really?
Where would he be trying to go?
That's the fight you want to pick here,
Where
Finch?
would he be trying to go even?
Blink
Is there
on the
oh,
Baskin.
Hey, this is the exact play I called. Yeah, do it. Going in with the Defender of Olympus. Baskin is in trouble. Weekend finds the first kill for LG. Weekend now a little bit of trouble. Last breath comes out. Taunt not going to land. Weekend now has to find the retreat path. Aquarius, though, punishes him before they can find anything there. 1 for 1 so far. And now Kiki trying to get out as well.
But Geno's on the way to rotate and help out with keegsmate in tow. So it ends up being a 1 for 1 with Space Station getting that return kill onto Weekend. Still not quite good enough to match that of killing Baskin right now. That's key to get Luminosity into a good spot.
At least able to try and slow him down just a little bit, even though it does eventually end up getting traded back out. Now returning back to the mid lane. Still not too big of a shakeup. It does mean that there's going to be some beads on cooldown, some opportunities to come back in. Andinster and Baskin both are going to be for at least another 100+ seconds without those. So certainly could see Weekend or Keeks trying to make something happen.
Andinster in trouble on that right side, but Kiki couldn't find him with the taunt in time. Andy's beads were down. That was a good kill opportunity, but Serqet is pretty difficult to lock down most of the game, and Andinster putting that on display.
I like this from Kiki, though. He's gone this first item, Breastplate of Valor, and it's great physical defense. He's against the Guan Yu, but I gotta think this is mostly for cooldown. I mean, he wants to be taunting, he wants to be ulting all the time.
Exactly, and he doesn't need to worry about his rotation speed very much, like he normally would without boots, because he has that ultimate. Baskin, he can't be there, buddy. What are you doing? I mean, Geno picks him up, but he was dead to rights without purification beads at that spot, without anyone even close to him to help out.
Yeah, no one going to be able to help him out. Baskin playing a little bit too far forward. Geno did end up getting a little bit low, but there are 3 members around. Baskin dead to rights, ends up falling. His second spill, and beads still 50 seconds away. That's time to do it again, in all honesty.
But Clout did use the ultimate in that spot where maybe it wasn't necessary, and that ultimate will be on cooldown until after Baskin's beads are back up. A little better safe than sorry in every situation like that. You can never really criticize Clout for using his ultimate in that spot, but probably feels like he wishes he would have held on to it.
But already we're seeing that strategy for LG sort of materialize. I think that one maybe a little bit gifted from Baskin being pretty far forward, but that's definitely the idea with this composition. That's part of why you draft this Neith. That's what Kiki being in the soul lane can do, because his rotations can be strong. I mean, we didn't see it there, but certainly that's the game plan, as Aquarius has his ultimate forced out as well.
Achilles has the blink, but Weekend doesn't necessarily want to go for it, knowing that Aquarius is still full HP, and this many heals against an execute can be a real problem for Weekend, because it's, you know, someone gets within that execute threshold, you start to go for that fatal strike, they get popped up above that threshold, and now you're without an escape. You can't reset it, of course, so I think that's something that Weekend is probably going to be using his ultimate mostly to initiate engagements or to get away. Going for the executes here is going to be very, very risky.
It's going to be very difficult once that healing happens in general. I mean, is there a barometer or sort of a metric or mark the Luminosity want to be meeting to where they can still feel comfortable? Because you got to think, if this gets too late, I mean, raw Sylvanus, Guan Yu, they can just sustain through just about anything.
They can, but like I said, they've got characters that can apply anti-heal fairly easily for Luminosity, so, and you can go for the Cursed Onks and things of that nature to put it back in your favor a little bit. So I wouldn't be worried about a specific time necessarily. I would be worried about when Baskin gets Rod of Asclepius. That is going to be a critical point in this game, and if that is before Luminosity starts going for anti-healing, they're going to be in some serious trouble.
BaRRaCCuDDa prioritizing poke a little bit here over Clout, but does have the unravel, so able to sustain that right back up. Meanwhile, in mid lane, just some poke being traded out, but not able to find much other than that. You said you wanted to see a little bit of anti-heal, and when it would be prioritized, already Weekend choosing to go for it in that second item. Brawler's Beat Stick, is Clout considered the ult, but decided not to.
That's the right call, I think, from Weekend. It feels a little bit bad to not go for Crusher, which ups your damage so much, or for Jotun's Wrath, which gives you the cooldown that Achilles really does need a lot of the time, but it's so worth it to make sure that you don't just insta-lose to a big team fight there where the enemy team gets to sustain up throughout the entirety of it and then be really, really far ahead afterwards. It's always better safe than sorry. Weekend can go for his next option as a cooldown or extra damage if he needs it.
And you highlighted the reason why I think it's so important for Weekend in particular, because he wants to execute. And being able to lower the ability to heal outside of the execute threshold, I think kind of is the extra tick that kind of forces Weekend to do this so early. He really does want to try and limit the healing, specifically on his target, to try and make it easier, as Kiki comes in for the taunt and gets the beads out of Andinster very early on. Even the evade and punish landing, Andy takes some poke, but Aquarius coming in with the horse, 2-man stun.
But that forces beads. Kiki with a well-timed ultimate, not only to give keegsmate some extra protection, but CC immunity for Kiki to make sure that he doesn't get followed up on there by Baskin and Andinster. Baskin used his ultimate to try and poke out Weekend on a rotation into the right side jungle and maybe even Keegs while they were going for right side mid harpies, and didn't have it there for that little skirmish in the mid lane, which is kind of why Andinster wasn't able to go forward and find a continuation CC chain onto Weekend after that stun. If Baskin has ultimate, a last breath thrown right back at Baskin guarantees an easy kill, and I'm surprised we haven't seen that yet from Spacestation. Without Weekend's beads, that's an easy combo for Serqet Raw.
Should be able to land it relatively easily as Clout charging up the ultimate. Geno jumps in aggressive. Weaken right here with him in tow. JeffHindla could end up being the target here. He's already low. Execute threshold
Nice.
along with the World Weaver. Perfect for Weaken to land the execute. But now BaRRaCCuDDa is here. But so is Keegs. He's got final judgment. Charge and ready to go. BaRRaCCuDDa brought too low and Keegs finds that kill too.
That was really good timing there from Weaken. I mean, right as Jeff goes below that threshold, he gets that execute off and make sure that Wrath of Terra never impacts that team fight. Baskin a little bit off the mark with that snipe, and so Weaken escapes because of it. Luminosity looking pretty solid so far.
They really are, and this is exactly when they need to look strong. Talked about how potentially Baskin could be a target because of his low mobility, but the same holds true for Sylvanus. As long as he's been around, that's been one of his problems, and this time Weaken, Keegs, Geno, and Clout do a great job working together to punish him, as Aquarius is forcing the dive onto Keegs underneath the tower. Out comes the Defender of Olympus from Kiki to keep him alive.
Baskin didn't have snipe there either. It was just a couple seconds away from being back up. Now he's got it, and he'll use it just to clear the wave to make sure that he can get that farm and head back to base as soon as possible. With the Mage's Blessing and the Chronos Pendant, 30% CDR plus Chronos passive, it'll be
so
up
much.
so quickly that it doesn't really impact Baskin to use it in that exact spot, but it did impact him to not have it whenever Aquarius went aggressive in the mid lane. Just has to be a little bit more wary of the communication there on those timings.
Thoth does pull Aquarius back in. Weaken has the stun and brought down about half HP, but still Guan Yu is okay. Did not have the cavalry charge there available, but looks like he has meditation, so could have even healed through that if need be, but in the end, doesn't really have to commit too much and manages to fall back. But you highlighted it already. Luminosity doing a great job of playing as a unit in this early game with these picks.
Aquarius getting meditation is kind of like the quadruple down on the healing, right? I mean, he gets
really
another healing option, but it's less about the HP regen in this spot and more about the mana regen that he's going to need. Guan Yu, mana-hungry character. Ra can be a mana-hungry character. Artemis can be a mana-hungry character. These are gods that sometimes can't continue to fight because their mana pools are a little bit too low. Meditation can be there to stop that from being a problem, but that does mean that he doesn't have a shell, an extra sprint, something like that. And with Kiki getting, of course, the Cursed Ankh, as I expected that he would, it does create some sort of diminishing return on that med.
That's right. At this point, Luminosity are giving full respect over to this healing composition of Spacestation Gaming. Brawlers, Pestilence, Cursed Ankh, already acquired by the squad, particularly on Weaken and Kiki, who've been dealing with this healing the most, it feels like. Going to get a lot of value as Clout has to use beads kind of late in that chain to use them, but he should still be okay. Ambush can't be committed, and he's going to make it out no problem.
I kind of like that late beads in that spot because he lives there no matter what, but you would force andinster to commit the ultimate instead of waiting. You still get hit by the full combo, but you end up surviving anyways, and now Andy doesn't have beads. So Clout's patience looks a little strange there, but comes out making sure that at least his opponent is expending something for his beads.
Gold Fury, though, is going to be looked at now by Spacestation. Weaken is going to blink right in because this is getting burned very quickly. Defender of Olympus is here, but Spacestation able to secure it anyway. Looked like Searing Pain might have been a little off the mark. Going in aggressive is KikiSoCheeky, but Aquarius is right there with the stun. A good ulti from Geno picks up everyone, and JeffHindla is going to fall.
Oh, Baron's in a ton of trouble on the top side as well. Weaken doing what he can, but Andy comes around the corner and helps out his Hunter. That won't save the solo laner, of course. Aquarius falls. But a 2-for-1, make that a 3-for-1 as Keegs gets that dive working. And
a great taunt from Kiki to stop Baskin from following up. Now Baskin has to fall back in a little bit of trouble. 3-for-1. Spacestation did get the Gold Fury, but now LG kind of have the map to themselves to decide what they want to do. They're threatening Baskin. Long-range damage from Keegs. Almost finds it, but they got to make sure they're farming something. A Searing Pain not going to land.
Just a blind shot there by Baskin. Can't find the home. No surprise. They're just kind of putting a shot in the dark, but Luminosity, honestly, probably feeling a little bit unlucky that they didn't get that Gold Fury. Great contest by them, and it was the right spot. It just didn't end up going their way.
Well, Anderson's going to come in and find Geno. Not going to let them get Pyromancer for free. Andy does have to retreat as LG do grab the neutral objective, and Andy should make it out there with his life. But LG do find something in response. They got 3 kills. It was 3-for-1, but if you add this kill in, it feels a little bit like 3-for-2 overall, plus those objectives.
Man, that was a really risky play by Luminosity. It's to some degree watching andinster walk up and just kind of leaving Geno on that objective, but it ends up going their way in large part due to Keegs' damage, and Keegs on this Thoth, man, has been really, really solid, incredibly accurate. That last team fight, he hits a huge final judgment on the retreating space station to set up and make sure that his tanks are going to be A-okay in the end. He's looked really, really good on this Thoth so far.
Keegs has been looking great, really, since he came into the SPL. Probably better than he had any right to look coming into the SPL on LG in a tough situation where he's going to get some of the best players in the world, the best players, and he's looked like he can hang with them every step of the way, having a great game here on the Thoth, 3-0-2. LG are going to need it, though. Space Station have this composition that's going to get better as the game goes on. You talked about Clout earlier, speaking of the game going later, and his build he might do on this Neith. He has the Poison Star.
Yep.
He's absolutely going into some early crit here, so auto attacks definitely are going to be the focus from him.
Yeah, like I said, he's always loved to build this character like a traditional hunter and just use that ultimate as a good tool. And it's where he's had a lot of success with this style of build on this god, and it doesn't surprise me that he's going back to it here. It's been a little bit, but still works.
Going to be very similar from BaRRaCCuDDa, who's building right along that same build path, but of course is Artemis, so has that passive to help out a little bit. BaRRa actually didn't have beads or Aegis for a while there, probably why he's playing so far back. Should be a little bit safer now with beads up, Aegis, another 20 seconds. So we should be able to see a little bit more from him, but had to give some respect over to Clout on the Neith.
Luminosity, I mean, they have really impressed so far in this match, haven't they? They've looked like they can really step with Space Station so far, and I don't think Space Station's been making horrible errors or anything like that. It's really just been Luminosity playing a very clean game thus far with good performances from Weekend and from Kiki and from Keegs so far that have been pretty impressive. And this is the team that's at the bottom of North America, and I think that speaks more about North America's competitiveness than LG's talent level, more than anything else. Is LG ready to take on the best teams in the world and win at LAN? Probably not, but if you give them enough opportunities, they'll take games and they'll take sets off of basically whomever, especially in North America. So it's exciting to watch when the league is this close.
Especially when they play like this. They've played to their composition so well. We all know that they are individually insanely talented, but if there's been any shortcomings, it's been sometimes they'll draft a little weird and they don't always play to that, but this time for sure they are. The play on JeffHindla in the jungle really sticks out to me in my mind still, where Clout with the World Weaver and Weekend perfectly timing the execute to go along with it. I mean, when they play like that and play to their picks that way, LG I feel like are right up there in that top 3 conversation. It's just that they're not always consistently there.
And that's the name of the game, man. Consistency is so hard to come by, and that's what we've been asking for so many teams, the mouse sports of the world, for them to be consistent. And whenever they start to turn it on, that's where you start to get those teams that rise from the bottom to the top. And look at our Rival as a team that a long time ago we were asking them, okay, we see it, just be consistent. Then they became consistent, and they finished 2nd place at Worlds.
Geno in some trouble. Andinster had the Magai's cloak pop just a moment ago, so he will be a little bit more vulnerable. Still has beads, of course, and is a Serqet, so relatively safe, but just a little bit easier of an opportunity if LG want to try and capitalize there.
Oh, blink forward, looking for Geno. Full combo onto him, but JeffHindla gets executed on the backside right away. Weekend puts good damage out as well as Andy gets crushed by that ultimate, but not quite enough.
Baskin kind of left in no man's land. Aquarius comes in to block some much-needed shots from Clout. It's a 1-for-1 so far, support for support. 3-member strong, LG considering still pushing in, but now is when that sustain starting to rear its head. Baskin and Aquarius topping off Space Station yet again.
And this means that this Gold Fury is going to not be quite as easy for LG. Now, Andinster doesn't have beads or blink or ultimate, so he's not going to be quite as useful in this team fight, but Keeg still has his ult. Baskin is working back towards his, so the mid laners are going to be the ones to watch out for. Also, the fact that both these solo laners are massive in farm. Level 19 for Aquarius, 20 for Kiki.
Well, it is going to be the Magai's cloak coming in from Andinster. So you're right, doesn't have relics. Does have one avenue in that just came back up.
Yeah.
So he could certainly use that to try and give himself an opportunity. But the Gold Fury being looked at. Aquarius is up on the horse. The target going to be Kiki. Searing Pain is there, but still tanky enough. Eventually does fall to Baskin. Weekend has to fall back. A clean pick from Space Station. And now they look towards the objective.
Couldn't tell exactly who Kiki taunted there, but you have to make sure it's the right target in a spot like that. And just didn't look like it to me. Great counter engage by SSG.
But Weekend is waiting right around the corner here, Ryan. Gold Fury gets low, Weekend comes in, does get the stun off onto BaRRaCCuDDa. Meanwhile, Sprint has to come out from LG on the back end of the fight. Now they're going to collapse onto the Achilles, who went in alone. They dropped the aggro and perfectly take down Weekend. Kiki and Weekend both out of this. A 5v3. Space Station now should have the Gold Fury.
And this is where that not playing together sort of mentality is starting to come back for Luminosity. Kiki goes in, not sure who he got taunted by, or who he taunted, but then doesn't end up getting out because the rest of his team doesn't step up to assist. Weekend goes on the back, and if BaRRa turns on him, that's fine. That's expected in that situation. But you can't let andinster get on top of him, Aquarius there. There were just too many bodies in that spot for Weekend to have any hope of getting away. He needs the rest of the team to push forward and help him out. And it looks like Geno got a little bit poked during that little skirmish on the front side right as Weekend was going in. And that's the only guy who can really be the forefront forward, the spearhead to try and help Weekend out. I mean, you can't really expect Keegs or Clout to be that frontlining presence for Weekend once to take attention away from him, because then they'll just end up dying in the same result is a free Gold Fury.
But that's exactly why the pick on the Kiki is so important. I don't think anyone in the game punishes you better if you all turn towards the back to Achilles than Athena if she's able to come in and find a taunt.
Right.
But she's dead, so you're exactly right that they couldn't kind of search forward. They were missing their best tool for it, and Weekend, I think he has to go in and try and stop that Gold Fury there. Unfortunately, they lose, if you think of it like a 4v3 with BaRRa turning towards Weekend, they lose that 4v3. Everyone immediately collapses because Space Station followed their call so cleanly, punish Weekend, Kiki, get the Gold Fury. And now this game that we're just talking about even is a little bit in Space Station's favor.
Well, I wonder where Keegs' ultimate was during that entire engagement. I don't think he used Final Judgment, and Weekend stunned BaRRa when the Gold Fury was very low, but BaRRa got down to half HP. If Keegs is in the right communication with Weekend there, you know, he said, hey, I'm going in here, get ready to ult. Keegs can start charging that up. Now, of course, Aquarius isn't going to let you just sit there and charge ult, but maybe he's, uses something on you, and then the rest of the team goes on to Keegs, who had both relics up, had his stun, his dash available, and that takes pressure off of Weekend.
Yeah, anything to make that side of the fight more of a priority so they can't all-in commit Weekend. I definitely agree. Could have been strong there. Space Station Gaming posturing around the Fire Giant. We're about 24 minutes into the game, and it doesn't feel like it. This one's kind of been swinging a little bit back and forth. Felt like LG were in control for a while, but now it's Space Station in the driver's seat. Moving forward towards this tier 2, but Geno is going to come in with the Stygian Torment, force cooldowns at everybody, but he's going to pay for it with his life. BaRRaCCuDDa finds that kill. Next up on the chopping block could be KikiSoCheeky as Weekend can't find the execute.
Weekend got trapped there, but lucky for him, there was no additional follow-up after that.
A lot committed onto Geno, yeah.
A lot committed onto Geno for sure, but that is one of those weird moments where, was that a good ultimate? Absolutely from Geno. He got a lot of resources out from the enemy team, but it was just a hair too early. The rest of his team couldn't help him after that.
JeffHindla's going to be the front line. Kiki trying to tank up for the squad, but JeffHindla can shrug it all off and heal right through everything. Keeks coming up now to try and put a little bit of damage of his own. They can't get the tier 2 tower, but Space Station clearly showing that they can just tank damage.
That healing, man, it's so strong at this point that they are able to just tank up all that damage. Look at that.
Jeez,
I mean,
Louise.
9K almost for Aquarius, more than 9K for Baskin, 2.5 for JeffHindla. That's insane.
It's almost 20,000 healing.
That's insane. That's more than 2 members of Luminosity's damage combined.
It's absurd at this point, and now the Fire Giant at half health because Space Station Gaming looked like they weren't just in a fight. Weekend is going to bring that Defender of Olympus on from KikiSoCheeky, so they are ready to defend. Fire Giant has been leashed. Kiki into the front line, 2-man taunt, immediate Spirit, arrow follow-up from Clout. JeffHindla's a target, but Aquarius lands a 2-man stun, and Clout eats a searing pain to the face.
But crits onto Aquarius, Space Station Gaming, reset, and use the healing once more. And now they can honestly go back to fire if they so choose.
Were they in a fight? Except for JeffHindla, you can't tell.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Space Station now are pulling the Fire Giant again, and Luminosity starting to run low on resources. They have all their ults, but Kiki does get pulled in. A nice taunt from Kiki in response. Paralyzing Spit and Stygian Torment's huge. Everyone's collected, but there's just no follow-up. Space Station Gaming are fine.
Man, that was a great final judgment from Keegs. But both BaRRa and Baskin Aegis right before Stygian Torment came out. He would have wiped both damage dealers off the map. A perfect ultimate from Keegs. It's just a better relic use by Spacestation Gaming, and that's one where you feel like you got robbed as a mid laner.
It's taunt into knockup from Stygian Torment, and they're on the circle from the Fire Giant. Still not enough as Weaken gets controlled. Searing Pain comes through, but actually does good damage to andinster as well, but he does end up falling. Clout is able to backflip out of there, but Aquarius has the horse again. Aegis comes out, beads not enough. Baskin takes down the Hunter for LG. Next up is Keegs. Where can he try and go? Has evade and punish, creates enough space, but Spacestation Gaming, they're ready to come right back to the Fire Giant, like a 2-minute fight.
Yeah, when was the last time these guys backed? How much golden hands does Spacestation even have right now? Probably a lot. Yeah, nearly 2K for a couple of these players, and they haven't even gotten that many objectives. That's just passive gold that they've accumulated during this engagement. And that's, I mean, I talk about it so often. That people are probably hearing me talk about. When you play against good teams, they constantly pose questions to you that you need to figure out the answers to on the fly. And when those are in that quick succession, I mean, they're on Fire Giant. What do we do? Okay, we got some relics, we got their ultimates. Okay, they're back on Fire Giant again. You've got no mental downtime to mentally recollect and talk about what you can do better in the next fight, where then there's constantly forcing you to engage on them. And if you don't, you're gonna give up Fire Giant. And so it just gives you, they're giving Luminosity more windows to make mistakes.
Yes.
And that's what good teams will do to you. And that's what Spacestation is, this entire comp, that's what healing compositions are so good at, is forcing you to make more and more decisions, because the extended engagements mean that you have to fight them longer and fight them more often, that you have to get the right answer more often or else you lose. And their Luminosity get the right response multiple times, and then Spacestation makes a good individual play for Baskin and BaRRaCCuDDa, Aegis a big final judgment, and then Luminosity doesn't have a choice but to give up Fire Giant after that.
It's just so much you have to try and keep track of in these fights. If you're Luminosity, it's so many different fights, so many cooldowns you're trying to track it. It's more than normal, right? You have one big team fight surge, and you can go, okay, I know whose relics, whose abilities, what ults are where, but it's like 3 or 4 big fights you have to do all at once. And as you said,
right,
there's no time to sort of come back and go over it as a squad. What's there? Who do we want to target? You have to continually communicate it so efficiently, and Spacestation don't give you time. They're just not giving you time.
It's like you work, you're getting ready for a test, and you walk out of that test and you're like, okay, that was hard, but I think I did well. And they go, cool, here's another one. You get out of that one, and okay, here's another one. And it's just like every time you think you're done and you've answered, you have to do it again and again and again. And eventually,
and also you're worse at each test subsequently.
Exactly. So you're doing your weakest subjects like from descending order.
Right.
So eventually you will make a mistake, because that's what this composition is designed to make you do. And it's not because Luminosity isn't a good team. It's just that it's very hard to answer that many questions back to back to back to back.
And it's tough, because this feels like it must be a picks and bans thing, because LG play their comp and Spacestation's comp correctly for like 20 minutes, right? They're punishing Sylvanus, they're punishing Baskin, they're playing around the picks that they have, but in the end, eventually we sort of got to this point now where Spacestation are just so tanky, they're able to sustain through just so much, even with Divine, even with Pestilence, even with Cursed Donk and Brawlers, all there, it's just still not enough.
And for what it's worth, no Odin ban from Spacestation in this game. Right. It was all those hunter bans, remember?
That's true, yeah.
But 2 of their 3 healers were picked in the bottom 2. It was Sylvanus in the top 3 after the second ban phase, and the last selection, I believe, was for Clout. Indeed, it was. So you know, that gives an opportunity for Spacestation to get all these healers, and by the time Luminosity has the chance to pick Odin, they've already put people in all the slots that Odin would go into. So now you're in a bad spot.
That's not even a mistake so much as Spacestation recognizing where we are in picks and bans, and now we can kind of all in. I mean, it's tough when they're able to adapt so well on the fly, and now Tier 2 tower in duo lane almost certainly going to fall. That's the last Tier 2 tower, add even more global gold to the pockets. Now it is only another 30 plus seconds on the Fire Giant. They might get one push on the Phoenix with that buff if they want to try for it. We just saw Clout back, we just saw Weaken back, they're sprinting, they're going in right away.
Kiki, taunt onto BaRRaCCuDDa, snipe is good to hit Geno. Last breath taking down on him as well. Aquarius found Kiki first, though, with help from the rest of the team, but Geno does ultimately fall.
Now, the execute does land onto Aquarius. Weaken good to take out the Guan Yu, but I think Aquarius should trade his life every day of the week to get that Phoenix and the rest of the squad make it out safely. Phoenix falls, only 2 Phoenixes still standing. Spacestation Gaming up 12,000 gold with only a 4-kill differential.
And BaRRaCCuDDa has just been putting out insane damage so far this game, nearing 20K so far in the damage department. And it's really been these mid to late game team fights where he has been able to sustain up through so much damage because of the team composition from Spacestation, and he's really taken advantage perfectly. He's put himself in the right positions. The Aegis that both he and Baskin had earlier by Fire Giant was just nuts, and then he's been able to put out a lot of damage because of it.
And we talked about this on SML earlier, but I mean, I think it's very relevant. This is what crit Artemis can do when you can't itemize around it, because there's so many healers happening. I mean, he's all in on it, and he's free to do it. I don't even think there's Midgardian mail. I mean, my man is able to just hit anybody at any time and burn all of them.
And that's the dream as an ADC,
It sure
especially as an Artemis. Not to worry about Thorns, not to worry about Nemi and Lion. Just have your fun, and BaRRaCCuDDa certainly taking advantage.
Up at the top of the player damage charts, waiting on Fire Giant to spawn one more time. I doubt Luminosity can come out and try and defend this one if BaRRaCCuDDa gets it started up. They're a bit spread out right now, trying to find what farm they can on the map. But all they can do is try and fall back and make their defense. If they can get all in, we certainly have seen it work for them, but they just can't let Spacestation continually reaggress and fall back.
That's the problem, and Soul Reaver and Obsidian Shard now done for Keegs will help with that, and Clout's working towards some crit as well, but even with this build, he's never going to match the late game DPS of an Artemis. He can't really box toe-to-toe. He's got to just take what comes to him, and Spacestation's coming quick. They
might have backed too late. Geno does go in with the Stygian Torment to pull everyone, but takes more damage than he puts out. Defender of Olympus on cooldown already too. Andinster does go finish off the dog. Weaken SU's Fatal Strike defensively to retreat. Now Kiki is in no man's land. Even with the Curse Stomp coming out, Baskin takes him down. Andinster with a double kill. Keegs no longer in the fight, and Weaken has to retreat as well. Andinster unchecked on the back line. Aegis from Clout keeps him alive, but Spacestation Gaming barrel into the Titan room.
A really, really good game from both sides. That was pretty back and forth for a little bit.
Yes.
But healing compositions, man, that's what they do to you. And Spacestation just has that experience at this level to understand how to utilize compositions like that and abuse their opponents, and that's kind of what happens there to Luminosity.
And it feels like so many things have to go right for it to turn that much on a dime, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if we can talk about that play on the Fire Giant enough, where they get taunted in by Kiki, knocked up by Geno, perfect final judgment there, and still they can't kill anybody.
No, and that's just, when that happens, Luminosity all go, all right, I guess we just kind of lose now, because that was as good as it's ever going to get.
That was great.
And we don't get anything out of it. I think that Spacestation as a whole worked very, very well together there, but I think Aquarius on that Guan Yu, man, the ultimates that he was getting off, consistently hitting multiple backliners with that cavalry charge, I thought he was a critical piece of that victory.
Well, it sounds like that's who Aggro's front runner for the MVP is. What about you all there in Mixer chat? Go ahead and vote for us now, and we'll get it over to the desk so we can break down what happened.
Spacestation Gaming doing what they do, just coming through and, making mincemeat out of the opposition. Love that Aggro shouted out the solo lane, because that's exactly where I was going to go. Aquarius looked really good on Guan Yu.
It wasn't even just the consistent strikes on the cavalry charge that really struck me as like the exact Guan Yu gameplay you're looking for, but also just his timing on the early cancellations, the perfect engagement setups time and time again, just a little bit too much for Luminosity to handle, and they also did struggle a bit with that damage. I do feel as though not being able to confirm kills during some of those engagements ended up biting them in the butt there, because Luminosity, for what it's worth, probably should have been a lot closer than what they were in that match.
I agree. I really do agree. And Clout did surprise me with the amount of damage that he was able to do on the Neith. Usually when you look at a team that lacks damage, you look directly at the Neith. But Clout did fine. Honestly, I think it was just a team loss here. Spacestation Gaming stepped up and did the work.
BaRRaCCuDDa, though, just snapped on the Artemis.
Yeah.
That was another huge thing, too. That you're already struggling as is to try and confirm your own damage, and you have to worry about the enemy teams. This was honestly the start of it, though. This kind of controlled the pacing of the duel lane from that moment forward. Clout trying to save Geno. Geno just getting a little bit too excited there, I think, from Weaken's gank, assuming that Weaken would be a little bit closer than what he actually was. And in the end, he could not be that. He just too quick to pull the trigger.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It was really just tough, I think, for that dual lane overall. Interesting note: the Athena did wind up going in the solo lane, leaving Cerberus support. So I actually understand this. I think I like this. The idea is that the Athena can be global without worrying about. Sometimes if you have to Athena ult elsewhere, you're leaving your hunter alone, maybe in a bad situation. If you put Athena in the solo lane, you don't run into that. is that a good enough reason? Was that better than playing the support Athena?
It could have potentially been a case also where you just see the Guan you picked up and you already have Cerberus and Athena. You might have been leaning more towards Cerberus in the beginning for it to be on Kiki, and then after you see that Athena would probably have a better matchup, you can swap her over. I'm not sure if that was Luminosity's original intention. For all we know, it could have just been Athena solo to begin with, and if that's the case, then I would have to assume it's just because you have the Neith World Weaver in one lane, then you have the Athena Defender of Olympus in the other. Two globals usually come right into the middle.
Makes sense. Certainly.